Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sonia McGuinness. I'm from the Fulbright Commission. I'm the Senior Awards Manager. And my colleague Rowan, who's our Communications Manager, is also at this webinar, and also Anya Nifulavon, who is a Fulbright alumni in FLTA, who's based at Trinity College Dublin. She's the Irish Language Officer at TCD. So Anya is going to talk after my presentation. I'm going to make it quite brief, so leaving time to have a question and answer session. So if you have any questions, if you can put them in the chat box, and Rowan, my colleague, will field them throughout the presentation, or maybe at the end, depending how important they are. Okay, so we're going to start now. Okay, so that's just the background for Anya, who will be speaking after me. She's a Fulbright ambassador also at Trinity College Dublin. Okay, so the Fulbright Commission was set up in the US in 1946. Ireland joined in 1957, and the Fulbright Commission was set up in 1991 here in Ireland, as in it was a standalone body. Okay, there's over 180 countries worldwide that have Fulbright Commissions, with fielding scholars, academics, researchers to go and study or research in the US, with also American academics and postgrads coming here to Ireland to do research or study. Okay, so who are the Fulbrights? What do we offer, and what opportunities do we have? It's open to any student or scholar in any academic discipline, artists, teachers, professionals, all disciplines, either research, study, teaching, or lecturing in the US. Okay, so what do the awards entail, or what do we offer if you're given a Fulbright award? So there's a monetary part to the award. We also help with the visa administration with the US Embassy. You also receive accident and emergency health insurance. There's a lot of cultural and professional programming while you're in the US and before you go here in Ireland, and also on your return to Ireland with the Irish Fulbright Alumni Association. There's also ongoing support and links. There's a global network of Fulbright alum that you could tap into once you return from Ireland, or even while you're in the US studying or researching. Okay, so there are a set of eligibility criteria which I'm going to go through. So the awards are open to Irish and EU citizens, so that would be EU citizens who've been living in the Republic of Ireland for 3+ years residency. You need to demonstrate a strong rationale for why you need to go to the US to undertake your study or your research. That's a very important part. Why the US? Why do you need to study and research there? You must comply with the 2-year home rule visa requirement. So this means after your study or your research in the US, you'll be required to return to Ireland for a 2-year home rule, which means it's just inbuilt in Fulbright worldwide. So if you go to the US on a Fulbright award, you have a 2-year home rule, which means generally it's considered Ireland or the EU, but you need to return. That could be after your full PhD or your full master's. So it's not straight away if you're doing a 2-year master's or a 5-year PhD. Okay, you cannot be a dual national, a US-Irish citizen. You cannot be living in the US at time of application. And we prefer if you don't have recent extensive experience of studying or living in the US. Now we wouldn't consider this like a J1 visa for a summer or a semester, like a semester away in the US. It's more like that you had your whole undergraduate in the US, or a longer period of time would be something that we definitely look into. Okay. So the timeline. So it's only March now, so there's a lot of time to have a think about this. So the application's open in August 2021. The closing date is October 21. There is a technical review of all applications. They're sent out to 3 reviewers between November and December 21. We shortlist for interview on the results of the review committee. And the interviews usually take place between January, February 2022. And then we hope to let the awardees know by March 2022. Okay, planning. So for planning your application, it's a great time now to start thinking about where you want to go, what you want to do. So you need to review the information on our website, choose an award that would be appropriate to you, whether it's a student, scholar, there might be a sponsored award that would be applicable to you. find a course or develop a plan, a research proposal in the US. Do you want to undertake a master's? Do you want to do research as part of a PhD? Then research what it means to be a Fulbright. Again, this is a really important element of the application. What is Fulbright about? What can I bring to the Fulbright program? What is different about Fulbright to other funding mechanisms? It's a really vital part of the application. And then you can register your interest with you. And when the awards open in August 2021, we'll send you the link to start the application. It's an online application. Okay, so there are a number of different award categories that you could apply to. So there's the Irish Student Awards, which are for postgrad researchers or postgraduate degree programs. There's academic or professional, which is research or lecturing, or research and lecturing. You have the Tech Impact Awards. You also have the Irish FLTA Awards to teach the Irish language and take courses at an Irish institution. And then we also have the Schumann Awards, which are run through the Belgian Commission and have a closing date, or have an opening date actually in December. So it's a slightly different timeline to the General Irish Fulbright Awards. Okay. So the Fulbright Irish Student Awards. So these are for postgraduate students in all academic disciplines or visual and performing arts. So they're for visiting researchers or degree-seeking students, such as a master's program. You must establish your affiliation or apply for a degree course with a US institution. So that's a separate process to applying to us for funding. You should be applying or researching your options in the US now to undertake a master's or a PhD program, or if you want to do research as part of your PhD here in Ireland, you need to start applying and looking at the options in the US. The awards are for between 4 and 12 months duration, depending on what you're doing. And the max award monetary that we would give out would be €30,000 for a full academic year, or the full 12 months, okay? If it's a shorter period of time, the award funding will be reduced. Okay, so the Irish Scholars Awards, these are for postdoc or professionals in all academic disciplines, including the visual and performing arts. You must possess a PhD or 5 years relevant professional experience. They're for researching or lecturing in the US. Again, you must establish your own affiliation in the US with an institution or research body. They're for 3 to 12 months duration, and the max award is approximately €35,000. Okay, again, it'll be reduced for shorter periods of time. We also have the Tech Impact Scholar Awards. So these are for Tech Impact Scholars. They're for scholars. You must possess a PhD or 3 to 5 years relevant professional experience. Preference is given to early career researchers. This is for non-commercial research, exploring transformative power of ICT. So these are a shorter grant period. So it can be between 2 weeks to 3 months in duration. And the max award would be approximately €11,000. Okay, so then we have the FLTA program, which is a student program. Again, it's to teach Irish and take classes at a designated US college or institution. It includes room, board, tuition fees, stipend, travel, and programming in the US. You must have a bachelor's degree, teaching experience, and fluency in Irish. Awardees will be matched with US institutions after an award offer is made. So the Fulbright Commission here in Ireland will choose the institution that you'll be going to in the US. There's a max of 10 months duration for these awards. Okay, so we have a number of sponsored awards as well that we co-sponsor with Irish, like EPA or GSI, or we have an LLM which is sponsored by an institution in the US. So there's a number of sponsored awards you could also consider applying to. So when you're applying to a sponsored award, you also have to put in
sorry, I think Sonia might be frozen there. Is she frozen for you, Anya?
Can you hear me?
Sorry, I think it was actually me that was frozen there, not you.
Okay. So there's a number of awards sponsored awards you can apply to. Some are open to both students and scholars. As you can see, the EI Award, Enterprise Ireland, Environmental Protection Agency, GSI in Geoscience. Then there are some student specific awards, sponsored awards, and some scholar sponsored awards. HRB, the NUI Scholar Award, Creative Ireland Scholarship, Tech Impact Awards. Again, if you look at their website, you find a load of information about these different awards, and it's sometimes you don't get enough of an uptake, and I just think it's because people aren't reading more of the information. They think the best option is to apply through the All Disciplines Award, when these are definitely worthwhile looking at. And again, there's more information on our website, or we can send you out flyers, etc. Okay. Move on. Okay, so the application requirements. So as I said, when the awards open in August 21, we send you out a link it's a kind of a global application system that Fulbright uses. And you would put all your information up. You would submit your application through the system, okay? So the application requirements are personal information and CV, personal statement and Fulbright statement. Again, so many people overlook this when they're, because I suppose we're unique in the funding field, in the academic funding field. You know, it's the Fulbright statement is about what you know about Fulbright and what you can bring to Fulbright. You know, it's we're not just looking, it's a cultural, not just an educational exchange, I suppose is what we're saying. So it's very much about what you do in the US, but it's also about what else you can do within that cultural sphere and what you can bring to the US with you, and you know, outside of your research, and what else you plan to do. And so it's kind of, it's a really important aspect of the application. And I have to say, I find every year a number of people don't even produce a Fulbright statement. I have to go back and ask them for it when they're submitting their application, because they've forgotten about it. They don't understand that it's actually vital to the application. And it's generally the first thing that the reviewers are asked to review is that Fulbright statement and personal statement. So I just, it's something you really should look into about Fulbright, and what you can bring to the program is really important. What kind of sets you apart from other people in your field, or what personal attributes you have that would promote Fulbright, or, you know, it's a cultural and educational exchange program, and that's what makes it very unique in the sphere of funding in academia. So it's really important that you put a lot of effort into that part of the application. Okay. So then your project statement, again, this would be your research project, what you plan to do in the US, and how you plan to do it, and why you need the justification for why you need to go to the US to do your research, why you can't do it here in Ireland. That might be you're going to research with a lab over there that doesn't exist in Ireland and has, you know, something that you're going to bring back which is specialized, or whatever it is. We want to understand why you're going to the US and how you're going to do it when you get there. So when you get off the plane, what are the steps you're going to go through? So that's another really important part of the application. The 3 recommenders. So that's another important part. Your recommendations or your referees have to submit their references online. So it's worthwhile, again, talking to your referees about what you're planning to do in the US, so they can discuss that when they're talking about you in the recommendation that they're submitting for you. It's good to get people you know you not just from an academic perspective, but also from a personal perspective. So it's worthwhile thinking about that now as well, because it's always lastminute.com, and the recommenders always hold up an application because December could be a busy time for them and they just haven't got around to doing it, and then it puts you under a lot of pressure and stress. So it's something to look into. Okay, and then transcripts for students, because you need a 2-1 to apply for a Fulbright award at, in your undergraduate studies at student level. Okay, then a copy of your passport, samples of work. If you're an artist, if you can submit 3 hard copies of samples and just post them into our office. Letters of affiliation, if possible. Not everyone has letters of affiliation, but if you can get a letter of affiliation, you know, some people might still be working on building a relationship with a researcher in the US. But if you have a letter of affiliation that you can put with your application, it would be great to see it at that stage. But it's not, you won't lose any points or anything if it's not submitted with your application. Okay. So also we welcome candidates in underrepresented groups. This could be communities, area of research, ethnicities, ability, home organizations, and HERs. So definitely, and again, this is something to put in your personal statement. If there's something unique about you that makes you stand out across all of these areas as well, we want to know about it. You know, we want you to share that with us. And again, that's something you can do in your personal statement, you know, and bring it to our attention because we want to see it. Okay. So as you know, Fulbright is about you, the person. So that's really important that we see who you are and what you can bring to the program. Okay. So finding a host, I suppose, depending on what you're doing, if you're a student and you're going to do research as part of a PhD, oh, where do I even start? Well, first of all, you start with the academics that you have in Ireland. They will have attended conferences. They will have done their own research, maybe in the US. They will know American academics in your field that might be happy to host you. So you just have to be proactive and start talking to people around you who might have had an experience in the US and could help you. Fulbright alum is another option that you could consider. But I mean, it's definitely the people who are teaching you, the academics some academics you might even know, but they're the people who can tell you where the best places are to go in the US for your areas of research. So definitely reach out to them. Okay. Also diversity, I suppose people, both students and scholars up to the West and the East Coast. America is massive and we love to see people going, I suppose, down south or middle America, where the real experience is, where it's something unique and they mightn't have had a Fulbrighter on their campus. So we love to see that kind of diversity as well. And as we said, use existing links, sponsors, alumni, ask your mentors, the academics that are teaching you at the moment, and then select a degree or choose a host institution in the US, okay? I suppose, yeah, it should make, like, the Harvards and Yales and all of those are great, but like we do love to see that kind of diversity as well of institution. And also funding, especially for students. If you think outside the box, like there is more funding available in not the Harvards and the Yales and the Columbias and the NYUs and the Stanfords, but institutions that you mightn't know of as well, but would be just as good in your area of research or the master's program that you're looking at. But their funding could be a lot better because they want international students on campus, and they probably want Irish students on campus because Irish students are known the world over for being sociable and popular and mixing really well. So definitely, as in, our funding is definitely helping hand, but if you're thinking about a master's program in the US, you have to think about other options for funding. Okay, so this is just basic about the review and the interview process in the US. So at the review stage that I talked about, that happens between November and December 2021, they're going to be looking at your academic record and the project statement, and then also at the cultural engagement and leadership, but not as much. Like, it's weighted more towards your academic record and your project statement at the review stage than it is towards the cultural engagement and leadership. But then if you make it through to the interview stage, it's more weighted towards cultural engagement and leadership and Fulbright fit. Would you work in the Fulbright family? What can you bring to the program? What can you bring to the program when you come back to Ireland? So that's that whole kind of personal element, that cultural element, because we know at review stage, if you get through to interview, that academically you've hit the mark, but now they want to see what else you can bring. So they want to know about you and what you can bring to the program. Okay. So then just to finish off, we bring Americans in to Ireland. As you know, it's a two-way street. So we have US students, US scholars, specialists, and global Fulbright scholars in Ireland. So it's definitely worth, if anyone's interested in hosting a scholar or in hosting a student, to get in touch with the commission, and we can tell you how the process goes. It's a longer lead-in time, but we can explain to you how the process works. So as an example being this year, we have 19 US scholars coming in to Ireland to lecture and research at Irish institutions. And I think we have up to maybe 10 US students coming in to either do master's programs here in Ireland or to research. Okay. So next step, as I said, reach out to recommenders, really important now. Select an institution in the US. Now it could be also more than one institution depending on your area of research. Research the Fulbright mission, like our ethos. Talk to Fulbrighters because they've had the experience and they can tell you so much more, you know, they can give you that perspective. Follow us on all our social media. You can reach out to us if you have any questions or if you feel, am I right for Fulbright or do I meet the eligibility criteria? If you're not too sure, you know, please reach out. That's what we're here for. If you just want to reach out at awards at fulbright.ie. And also our website has a huge amount of information, especially about the sponsored awards. If you want to look into them in more detail, it's definitely worthwhile researching our website. So I think that's it. Anya, would you like to say a few words about Fulbright?
Thanks, Sonia. Hi, everyone. My name is Anya Ní I was a foreign language teaching assistant or an FLTA in Idaho State University in 2016. So I'll just give you a little bit of background as to what I did there and then why you should apply for Fulbright. So as an FLTA in Idaho, I taught the Irish language for an academic year, and that involved working with both students and staff and members of the public. And part of my job at the time was, I suppose, to promote the language and culture outside of the university and in the public or in the community as well. So that was really interesting. And then as well as that, I took some classes while I was there. That was part of the program where I took 2 courses per semester. So I was both teaching and also taking some classes. And as I mentioned, I suppose supporting the students, they had some student societies like we would have in Trinity. So supporting them and the Irish language one in terms of promoting the language and the culture amongst others, and then organising events in the community. So it was really great experience, and I suppose I would say I really kind of developed both personally and professionally from it. And it definitely has helped me along in my career to date, I suppose, when I came back home then, and how I maybe changed or progressed in that sense. Definitely in terms of, I suppose, professionally, your skills, you'll learn and what you'll develop over there from others over there, but also, as Sonia said, what you're going to do outside of that is important as well, and being open to, I suppose, meeting new people and engaging with other cultures and new things to learn is very important. And I suppose some of what I would, I suppose, maybe advice for people who might be interested in applying is, once you know what you are going to apply for, it is important to think about what would make you a good ambassador for Fulbright in terms of the work you're going to do, but also outside of that. And are you open to meeting new people and to learning new things, and how you can, I suppose, contribute positively to whatever field you're going into in the US, but also when you come back home, how you can contribute positively from what you've learned when you come back to Ireland in your area or in your field. What can you offer when you come home that would be of benefit? I think it's important as well, as Sonia mentioned, to engage with the alumni. We all love talking about our Fulbright experiences. And so if you know somebody who's gone before you, or there is an area on the website that will direct you to people who have done the awards that you're interested in previously, it's definitely important, or to get a good idea of what's involved and what's ahead of you, and also how to prepare for your application process. So I'd recommend that. Also think about areas maybe where you have shown leadership in the past, because again, coming back to being an ambassador, you know, you're looking to represent the Fulbright, I suppose, Fulbright, you know, on a different stage in the US. Think about that and how you might have some experience in doing that. And I think that's about it. I think just mainly thinking about what else you have to offer, not just in your area, whether it's your academic area or your research area. I suppose really they look for kind of an all-rounder who is open to going out and talking to people and meeting people and getting involved in the community. And as Sonia mentioned, I would really recommend maybe going off the beaten track. I ended up in Idaho, and as an FLTA, you don't normally really have a choice. You're matched to the institution. So I didn't know anything about Idaho before I went, and probably not somewhere I would have chosen to go, but it was great. It was a great experience, and it really gave me a chance to get out there and just meet people. And, sometimes we think we know a lot from, the media or from movies about the US, culture in the US, but actually once you get out there, it can be quite different according to the different states. And, I met some really different people who I might have different opinions to or different beliefs to, but it was really good, and really benefited me to learn more, and I suppose to open my eyes to new things. So, and it was great for just in terms of things like travel as well, something we were all interested in doing. We were over there, you see places, national parks, maybe along the northwest that I would never have thought of before. I probably would have veered towards the major cities. So it was really great in that sense as well. I saw places that I never would have traveled to otherwise. I think that's it. But if anyone has any questions, I'm welcome to ask.
Yeah, thanks a million, Anya. Sonia, I might just throw a question over to you that came in the chat. So you talked about a recent extensive experience living in the US, but let's say, for example, someone lived there before they were, 10 years old for maybe 2 years, but they're not a citizen and have been living in Ireland since maybe they were 10 or 12. What would
Fine. That's not recent. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. There's no issues with that at all.
If you can't remember living there, then that's fine.
Yeah, you can't remember living there. No, it's absolutely fine. No need to worry.
Yeah.
Anya, sorry, I was going to ask you. So, what outside of your what did you get? How did you get involved from a kind of? I know it was an FLTA, so there was a lot of culture, but from a cultural aspect, how did you get involved in while you're in the US? We talked about that academic cultural kind of balance. So, what did you do while you were in the US to kind of be different or make a difference?
I wanted to support the students, I suppose, to see. I suppose some of them had kind of set views on what Irish meant, or kind of traditional views. And I suppose I was trying to show them that, we're a modern society now. So for the student events, I enjoyed working with the students. We set out that we'd have one event per month, for example, with the student society that was there, whether it was maybe getting together to show movies or doing a cultural workshop or things like that, based around music as well. Now, some of them were very interested in Ceilidh dancing. So once a week I used to do a session in a local coffee shop. There was a live band that played there, and we used to go through a few Ceilidh dances. So that was kind of a fun part for them. And, people just who would be wandering in on a Monday evening would join us, and ended up coming very regularly then. And then also some of the evening classes I did, they were for students for credit courses, but also members of the community were invited to come in. Anybody could sign up. So that was a really nice way to, I suppose, meet with people outside of the college and just talk to them about what I was doing in terms of the language and in terms of Fulbright as well. And I kind of found then once you met them maybe through an evening class, they would come along to an event then that you might do at a weekend, like a Ceilidh, or we had a big event in the second semester. The students actually over there were they had an opportunity to travel to Ireland for 3 weeks if they took the full year's course. So we did a lot of fundraising for that, and we had a big event in March of that year where so we had some musicians over from Ireland, and we served some Irish food, and it was a big kind of fundraising night. And yeah, it was great because I suppose after engaging, and one of the good things was, it's great to work over and see how US universities run and how how a department is run. That was a big learning curve for me. And I suppose I tried to get the staff involved as well, because like you said, I was the only Fulbright there. So really it was great. It was of benefit to me because I was kind of a novelty. So went out of their way to be friendly, to invite me to their homes, to, make me feel at home. And then in terms of the work, when I said, oh, we're having an event, at the weekend or anything, you know, they were always very supportive and would turn up and help out. And so I suppose in that sense, there was kind of a community feel to it. So it was nice.
I'm sorry, the other thing, what about, did you go on any Fulbright, you know, events that were organized? Did you attend any FLTA events or any?
Yeah, so we had a half-year event in December where all of the FLTs, and I suppose that's the great thing about the FLT program, is that you meet people from all over the world who are coming to teach all different languages, whether it's French, Spanish, Arabic. So at the beginning of the year, I had an induction session in Michigan, and I met maybe another 100 FLTAs who were teaching different languages, and that was only, I suppose, one set of FLTAs. You know, there was about 5 inductions, I think, in total. So we had 3 days together there of training and of meeting people. And then in December, then they brought everyone to Washington, where we had a 3-day conference. And that was brilliant. You just met people from all over the world, talked about I suppose, the work that you were doing, but also just, you know, having fun together, learning about their country or their language. That was fantastic. And then also, as part of the FLTA program, we had some immersion weekends where you would be invited to go to, you know, some city or some state and teach Irish for the weekend. So I was in Butte, Montana, and I didn't get to go to a few other places just because I had other work, but other people did. So you'd have the opportunity to go for a weekend and teach Irish. And again, you're meeting more, you know, people more so in the community in that sense. And it opened up my eyes to, I suppose, you know, the interest in the language in the US, which I never would have envisaged. People traveled up from Arizona, from Seattle, all the ways to Montana just to learn Irish for the weekend. And a lot of them had already done those weekends previously. So some of them were, you know, some of them were beginners and some of them were quite fluent. And you could just have a whole conversation with them, and they tell you about how and when they started learning and how long they had spent in the Gaeltacht. And yeah, it was really eye-opening in that sense. They were really interested. And that's really, I suppose, you know, inspiring for us going over there, you know, thinking that maybe people didn't know much about it, but there's people who are really, really interested and engaged in it.
Thanks, Sonia.
So there's been a couple of other questions, Sonia, which I'm going to bat over to you. So for, let's say, the 2-year home rule, does that mean you have to have been living in Ireland for a full 2 years before applying?
Oh, so is that the 2-year home rule only comes into play after? So if you receive a Fulbright and you go to the US, then the expectation is that you return to your home country. At this point in time, it's the EU, not just Ireland, would be considered your home country at this point of time. Now, it can be cumulative. So just say you stayed in Ireland for a year and then you went to Australia for a year. Then you came back and you spent another year in France. What the embassy will look for is the cumulative, like they want proof that you've been here, you know, for 2 years over the last 5 or whatever it is. So that's how it works. So it's only after you get a Fulbright that 2-year home rule comes into play. If that's what the candidate is, or the potential candidate is asking.
Okay. And then another one, speaking about, you were talking about the LLM application and talking about having I think a 2-1. So this person is, so they're, where would you, so they're, let's say they're in 4th year, but you have, so yeah, it's just talking about the grade. So it's maybe a predicted grade, or like they have grades from, let's say their 1st year grade, you know, that doesn't,
no,
that
they'll
doesn't
have
count.
their other grades.
Yeah. So let's say, because
no,
I know
they'll look at you, so they'll look at they'll ask, we will ask, and then we'll have you want your predicted, your final grade. We'll look at the other transcripts, and then if you're awarded a Fulbright, we'll want to see the 2-1.
Okay. So let's say I think so this person is kind of specifically, let's say, I know in a lot of universities, 1st year doesn't count towards your grade at the end. So I think possibly maybe if you had, you know, myself, I probably didn't study as hard in 1st year.
I know, we all know you didn't do that well in 1st year.
But you know, I knuckled down when it counted towards my QCA for my final grade. So I think that's specifically what they're asking.
Yeah, that's okay, but as long as your final grade is a 2-1, okay. You know, if that's what you're going to be getting. Yeah. You know, with those LLMs as well, it's all a helping hand. So just be aware of that. Like it's collecting funding from everywhere. Like there's some of those LLMs that are partially funded, some are fully funded. But like it's just being aware of because sometimes you find that people don't understand the whole process of the LLM. So you know, and depending where you're applying to, you know, you might get a fee waiver, but a fee waiver isn't for accommodation and subsistence, which you'll need to prove, you know, for your visa. So just be very clear and as in your own head about what you're getting from the institutions you're applying to or what's on offer from us. So like we wouldn't be giving, unless we have a fee waiver with an institution already agreed, which we do with some, we just, if you were applying for an LLM, just say in Harvard or Yale, we just be the ones giving you up to 30,000 euro to facilitate you, whether you pay for towards your tuition fee or your subsistence, but that's the max that we would be able to do. And it's important to know that funding deadlines and for applying for master's programs in the US are before the application deadlines. So you need to do your research and see where you can collect funding from.
Okay. Thank you, Sonia. Another person is asking, would I be eligible for a postdoctoral scholarship as a recent PhD graduate who took a role in the industry?
How long have they been in industry?
And they haven't said specifically, but they did say a recent PhD graduate. So I would assume in the last, 11 months, something like that.
Yeah, if they want to email awards and just give me a brief outline of what their plan is, and I can give you a better answer if that suits them.
Yeah, like we are a small team and we're quite approachable. So you can actually just drop us an email.
Just drop us an email, we'll get back to you.
Yeah,
so
essentially, yeah.
Yeah, if there's things you don't want to talk to openly, fine, we're happy to.
So in the reminder there, so Anya and myself and Sonia, we're all in that. So you can just find our emails there and drop us an email if you have any follow-up questions afterwards. So I have questions are flying in there. So from a postdoc research point of view, are you expected to create your own research proposal from scratch? In brackets, in collaboration with host institution, of course, or can you slot in with a project already underway in that host institution?
Interesting question. Is it a project you're working on here, or is it I suppose you could slot in, but is that project unique in the US? Will you be bringing that knowledge, as Anya said, back to Ireland? How will you be utilizing it? Yeah. So if it's something innovative that's happening in the US that isn't happening here, and you're going to bring it back to Ireland, that's a great justification. I'm going to spread the knowledge. I'm utilizing Fulbright to learn this and then to bring it back to Ireland to share it with my colleagues. So yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think that may be one of them where if you want to follow up with us again afterwards and give us some more specifics, we'll be able to give you a definitive answer on that. And then I think the last question that's popped in, I see on your website that the deadline for applications is the 2nd of November. My master's program finishes in October. So does that mean I wouldn't be able to apply as part of the current research I'm conducting? Just a general question about timelines. Yeah, so their program finishes in October. Application deadline 2nd of November.
I don't know so they want to do independent research as a student, but if it's still to do with their master's, and there's, even though the master's is finished and there's a justification for that, if you can roll it all into it in the research project, I can't see any reason why not. If it's part of that master's program, I can't see why not. Again, if you want to email us directly, but I can't see why not if you can justify that,
Yeah. Perfect. So I think that's all the questions we have received. Yeah, that's all. I hope we've answered them. And as Sonia said, do feel free to drop us an email. We're nice people, we're approachable. So thanks a million, Anya and Sonia.
You
and me.
Thank you.
Exactly.
I suppose, just if anyone in Trinity wants to ask me anything, I'm more than happy to help. So like I said, my email address is in that email too.
Perfect. And I will be sending on a recording of this webinar, and I will also send the presentation on to you all in that same email. Okay, thank you all for attending. And thanks for all your questions. See you.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks. Bye.